Hello and welcome to our weekly wrap. We've seen focus this week fall largely on central banks and their rate decisions. So I'll kick off with the Bank of England. They voted 8-1 in favour of keeping rates on hold. McCafferty was the only dissenter. This was largely expected. However, analysts also forecast that the minutes themselves could have a fairly dovish rhetoric to them. This was not the case, and the minutes were largely a reiteration of comments made by Bank of England's Carney at the recent Jackson Hole Symposium, where he suggested that the central bank are willing to look through recent volatility and events in China when it comes to looking at their inflation expectation. As such, we saw strength go through sterling on the back of the release. Then we had the Bank of Canada rate decision. They kept rates on hold as expected. However, we did see some strength go through the Canadian dollar at the release of this, given that there had been some outside calls for the central bank to cut. Then we had the RBNZ rate decision. They cut rates as expected for the third consecutive month. However, we still saw some weakness go through the New Zealand dollar despite this cut being expected, as the rhetoric suggested that this may not be the final time that the central bank cuts. Finally, we had the Russian central bank decision. They kept rates on hold at 11%, and this comes as was expected by most. However, some analysts had suggested that they may cut by 25 or 50 basis points. Away from central banks this week in terms of equity, we have seen focus fall on Apple and their conference. Interestingly, we did see strength go through Apple shares leading into the conference, where they then went on to announce their latest version of the iPhone, iPad and Apple TV. The market was seen as generally not too impressed with these updates, and Apple did finish in the red. However, the next day Apple shares shrugged off the recent conference and went on to finish in the green. Next week we'll see the September Fed rate decision, which has been highly anticipated by many and suggested that this could be the time that the Fed finally hike rates for the first time. That's all from me. I hope you have a great weekend.